In part one, you saw that I made the deal on the 86 T600, the 77 Freightliner cabover, and the 75 F500. Now, the two semi-trucks, the T600 and the cabover, both have front tires that are off the bead. Now, both them trucks have been sitting what we think to be somewhere around 26 years. I really don't want to try and take the time and air that tire up and get it to where it'll hold air, because we're going to tow that truck from the rear. We think we're going to tow both of them for the rear. If I get it all aired up, you know, it's still going to be an old tire that's God knows how old, and I could still blow out on the way home. So what I've done is I have some of these bud wheels laying around. So the other day we cleaned them up, wire wheeled them, took a flat disc to them, primed them and painted them. And now we're going to put some known good tires. I have some tires here that I took off another truck. These are low pro 22.5s. Now, both them trucks have 24.5s on them, if I remember right. It's not going to matter. We'll be okay with that. But I need to do this. I have wheels and tires laying around with good tires on them, but they're Bud wheel, or they're Hub Pilot wheels. And the difference is a Hub Pilot is just that. The hub of the truck centers the wheel. All right, so the lug nuts, like you'd see like this, it's just holding the wheel to the hub, and then the little cast dogs in here hold that wheel centered, so it's not going down the road like this. It goes, you know, perfectly centered. So I can't use these. I need to use these, which are what's called a Bud wheel. And if you're not familiar, a Bud wheel is a wheel that uses a conical seat, just like most cars do. Has a lug nut similar to this that sits right down in here. Now the front uses one single lug nut, and in the rear they'll use two lug nuts. It'll have one to go on here, and you tighten that wheel down, and then you put the next rim on backwards from this one, and then it has a seat just like this facing out, and you put the second lug nut on, which the second lug nut looks very similar to the front, just a little bit larger hole in the center. So what I need to do now is get these mounted, and I'm not going to video this because I just did a video on manually mounting tires, and I'm going to put these on, get them aired up, and get them ready to go. And we're going to load up 2 tires. We're going to take impact, a couple sockets in case we break one, some PV blaster, bottle jack, some cribbing, and probably going to take some torches because there's a good chance that these Bud wheels, the lug nuts on the Bud wheels, are not going to want to come loose. So we're going to get all that stuff gathered up, get this ready to go, and then we're going to head down and start getting them prepped and ready to tow. So stick around, guys. All right, so we were on day 3 or day 4, I don't remember now, but let's call it part Kenworth. How about that? Because I can't remember. We got the Kenworth up on the trailer, or up on the rollback, and I had to deflate every single tire. The front ones were off the bead already, but I deflated every tire so we could get it on here and get under 13.6. Once we're aired up, we'll have about 1.5 inches under 13.6. So should be in good shape. We'll just head home nice and easy and slow, and I'll drop my lift axle. It's on, so let's get out of here.
Well, we made it home safe. Another trip safe, thankfully.
Okay, so we got it off the rollback. First thing we're going to do is change out the front tires. We're going to be changing the front too, and then we're going to pull all these off the back, get these aluminum wheels off of here. These are 24.5s. I'm not going to be running 24.5s. The end result will be 22.5 low profile. So there's 8 of these wheels that are good. The front ones have pitting issues. The front rims on both sides have several issues, which is one of the reasons I didn't change them before we put them on. It was pointless because they're scrap anyways, so wasn't a big deal. But we're gonna get all these off, and after we get all these off, we're gonna single out and put some other wheels and tires I have on. I'm gonna put one on each of the rear, I believe, and chain the front axle up. That way when I lift it to move it, I don't have to chain the front. I'm only chaining one. So anyways, that's the plan. Look how rusty that is from holding moisture. That's why I hate chrome lug nut covers. Get the rest of these off. So I'm taking off these lug nut covers. And this one I grabbed a hold of and it was a little different than the others. I guess back in the late 90s you could use RTV gasket maker to hold your wheels on. I didn't know that was an option back then. You can see this, all the inners were originally made for steel wheels. This truck came with steel wheels, not aluminum. Someone added these later, but there should be at least 3 threads showing, closer like this one right here. Some of them have been changed or not tight, but there should be threads showing. But I thought that was interesting. Some of the things you find on old trucks, huh? Alright, so that's going to be a lot of fun. The good thing is steel will melt before the aluminum, so I should be able to cut this out without really damaging the aluminum wheel. Fingers crossed. I guess that's the difference between theory and reality. In theory, I should be able to do this without hurting the wheel. In reality, probably not going to happen. Alright, so there's the end of it. And there's my wheel. A little bit laying in there yet, but it'll fall out real easy. You can see there's a little corrosion in all of them. But anyways, we were able to save a wheel, so good deal. So now I'm going to cut that off flush so we can knock it out. So these are the inner lug nuts. So you put the first wheel on, you tighten down the first lug nut. The one on the right is correct for having inner and outer aluminum wheels. This one is set up for inner and outer steel wheels. Aluminum wheels are quite a bit thicker than steel wheels, so that's why this has to be longer. Once this is longer, then when you put your lug nut on the outside, you can still have your minimum threads sticking out past the lug nut. Yeah, look at this. Usually in a truck this age with a lot of miles, from getting in and out of road salt, this would be all rusted up in our area. So there's our controls for the wet line. Okay, got my wheels all off and cut that one stud off. Alright, so we got both front wheels changed over, and I want to kind of explain the process here, why I'm doing what I'm doing, the way I'm doing it, okay? First off, I wanted to get wheels and tires off of it so that I can get the old junker tires completely off, because I'm getting ready to take a load of scrap tires in, and I wanted to get all 9 of these included in the load, because the place I take them charges me by the ton. So we're going to take quite a few. We're going to take all the ones we have here and all the ones at another property and get rid of them. So that's one reason I wanted to get them all dismounted. 2 was I'm not going to use these wheels. For whatever reason, maybe it's the way that you turn on the front steers, but the bead wears really bad right here on aluminums, and this is very sharp right now. And this one right here, you can actually get that rainwater off there. You can see this huge dish in here, and this is sharp. And on steer tires, it always seems to be worse. So that's why I sacrificed those, because they were pointless. We're not going to use them. I'm not running 24/5s anyways, but they're scrap. They're not worth saving. So I wanted to get all those off. The next thing is, on this truck, the rear brake has a parking brake on it. The rear axle has the spring brake. So we took that apart, chained it up, all right, and we'll run a couple lug nuts on there to hold the drums on. But the purpose is we're going to get 2 more wheels for the back, put them on the outsides, so that if we can get this thing to start and run, the next thing is we want to be able to move it and keep checking systems. And I don't want to put all new wheels and tires on here until we know the condition of the motor, the transmission, and so on and so forth, because you don't want to go through all this crap. I'm not doing things backwards. We're not going to start with a bunch of chromey, doodad add-ons and then paint the truck and do all this and then say, oh, and by the way, the motor's no good, or the transmission's no good, or or the frame's no good or something like that. My process is, let's get taken care of the maintenance items so we can check the systems out and then move forward from there. So that'll be next. We'll get them a couple other wheels, a couple tires mounted for the back, and then we'll start moving towards getting it to start. There's no batteries in the truck. Someone's taking them all out of it, so we'll have to get batteries and filters and all that stuff. All right, so here's the aluminum wheels. And these are off the drives. And you can tell here, it's got a little wear, but it's nowhere near what the steers were. So we're gonna save these. Now the Freightliner cab over has 2 more on it, and from what I can tell on those, they look to be in about the same condition as these ones. So we're gonna go ahead and pull those 2 off and make this a matching set of 10, because if I remember right, I think they're the same, but we'll make sure. But anyways, we're gonna sell off the 24 5s because we don't need them. Proof that some people shouldn't be working on trucks. This is a service brakes. The back of this truck. This was covered up by foam and tape. Looked like one of these, like they were trying to protect it from rubbing on something else, but indeed they were just covering up a horrible repair. Alright, so I want to back these brakes off so that I can get the drums off. So I pulled the line coming in to the valve for the spring brakes. I pulled that out. I'm just putting shop air to it. What we're trying to do is get the brake lining to separate from the drum. And if it won't do it on its own, I brought out a little hammer. You can see where a piece of rust has been covering that for quite some time. Add it to the list. So I need 2 more roller wheels, let's call them that. I'm just gonna mount up a couple of these cruddy tires I got. This one I took off a truck because it had multiple flat spots where it may have been towed or the axle slid. All these are flat spots. You know, not something you want to use, you know, on a truck going down the road, but on something that you're just trying to get running, get it movable and so on and so forth. They make good rollers, so I don't throw them out. Everywhere there's an arrow, there's a flat spot. So the only way to really make this a usable tire again, because the casing's not that old, is they'll grind this back down and then they'll add a recap to it. And I have 4 matching tires like this where they're kind of low on tread. I'll run the other 3 down low. Once the other 3 are worn down, then I'll send all 4 in and have them capped and use them on something. And I know, listen, don't leave me a ton of comments telling me how horrible recap tires are. They might be horrible for you, but for a guy that might put 10,000 miles on a truck and the casing will dry rot away before the recap goes bad. They have their place. So we're gonna stick these on here real quick and so we can get them on the Kenworth. All right, so I've got my tires and wheels on here temporary. Now, we're only doing this so we can, if we can get the truck started, we can move it forward and we can move it back. That's the only purpose of doing this right now. We just want to get a general idea of the condition of everything. Now, something to note is you see how these lug nuts here, I was able to get them to seat up against the drum. All right, on these steel wheels, they are seated, but the wheel won't tighten up. The shoulder on those lug nuts I have back here are too thick, so these wheels will not tighten up. So you don't want to do this and go down the road. We're just doing it just so we can, you know, again, move forward and back. So that's as far as we're going to go right now. I have to go pick up some batteries and a fuel filter. I think that's all I was going to do right now, and some diesel fuel, because we're going to bypass these tanks with the fuel in them, and we're going to run out of a bucket like we have before. So look for the next one of that, guys. We'll be just trying to do the first start. So I hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you on the next one. There's a lot more to come. Because aluminum wheels are quite a bit thicker than the aluminum wheels. What did I just say?